Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Lebanon Utility Service Board for Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. Let the record reflect that all members are present tonight and that the meeting was properly advertised. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item tonight is the approval of our minutes from our April 14th meeting. Everyone had a Tim, seconded by Bill, to approve the minutes from April 14th, 2022. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, thank you. Next item tonight is information, and Sandra Morgan will be covering our financial review. Hey, Sandra.
Good evening, everyone. And yep, I'm here tonight to go over the 2021 year-end financial review. The full set of financial statements are out on Govinda, so everybody is welcome to go out and take a look at the full set. The purpose of tonight is really a very broad overview, just to show how each utility is doing. And as a reminder, we do keep all of our financial statements on a GAAP basis. So we hold open normally 2 full months, sometimes a couple of extra weeks. We try to get them done by the end of March or the first week of April, just so that we can catch all of the accruals that need to go into these. So the first thing you should have here is we'll start with the electric. And electric operating revenue this year was about $24.5 million. The operating expenses was $22.8 million for an operating income of $1.7 million. We had non-operating expense of $281,000, which is mostly the interest on our 2013 bonds, for a net margin of $1.4 million. And when looking at the income statement, what I normally do on a monthly basis and then great detail on an annual basis is we take a look at that net margin and we add back all of our non-cash items, and then we look to make sure that that'll pay for all of our debt repayment and then our capital improvements. So when I look at that for 2021, we had about $1.6 million left over for capital improvements. Our current rates were built to provide for $1 million a year in capital improvements, so we did slightly better than that. But when I look at our capital budget over the next 5 years, our average is $1.6 million. So right now we would be right on target for what the average is for the next 5 years. Looking at our budget analysis, our total operating revenues, we had a difference of about $314,000, so 1.3%. And on our operating expenses, it was $615,000 for about 2.63% difference. On the expense side, we did have a fairly large entry when looking at our unfunded liability on the pension, because that went down significantly. We had to do a negative expense to our pension account. So even though we paid pension expenses at the end of the year, we ended up with a negative pension expense. So if I back that out, it would have been under budget by only about 1.26%. Next, you have listed in front of you, that's just the major capital improvements that were done in 2021 by the electric utility. It was about $695,000. And then there's a little bit of history when you're seeing the spikes in the electric. The big spikes of the 3.2 million, 3.6, and 3.3, those were all paid for out of bond funds. So because we had about $1.6 million, we only spent about $700,000. We was able to see an increase in our cash reserves. So our end of year cash reserves was about $2.9 million. That does not include your operating revenue, bond proceeds, or any debt service. So overall, on the electric side, in my opinion, financial performance for the electric utility for 2021 was slightly better than what we budgeted. The current rate structure was designed to provide about $1 million for capital improvements. We were just over that. The current rates have been in place since 2012, so we just need to keep monitoring and making sure that it's covering everything. Capital expenditures in total were under budget, allowing for an increase in cash reserves and an operating expense, or operating reserves. Any questions on the electric utility? And again, I know this is a very broad overview. Once you dig down into the financials, if you have specific questions, email those to me, and I'll be able to get those answered for you. All right, on the water utility, we have operating revenue of $5.6 million, operating expenses of $3.2 million, for an operating income of $2.4 million. We have non-operating expenses of $197,000, and what that is it's the interest on the, right now we have 2 SRF loans outstanding. This would have been the interest on the 2019 ones. We wouldn't have started paying interest on the 2021 ones just yet. So that left a net margin of $2.2 million. And when I do the analysis I mentioned earlier, we were left with about $2.3 million that we could have put towards capital. The rates were built for $758,000 in capital, so it seems like a big difference there. However, we are going to start getting billed for the 2021 SRF loans, and the rates were built to cover both the 19, the 2021, and then there's another loan that will possibly be outstanding. We have SRF money left that we had planned to borrow in either 22 or 23. So these reserves have to cover that also. From a budget analysis on the revenues, we were over budget by 13.43%. We don't like to be that much over budget, but what that ended up being was $511,000 of that $663 was availability fees. So when we budget availability fees, we call the city and we ask them how many building permits they think is going to be pulled. We budget it based on that average number of building permits. And if we don't know of anything else, it's better for us to use the lower number so that we can project more accurately for a rate increase that's needed. Because if we get more, the next year that would be in our cash and we would have that information. So without the availability fees, we would have been over about 3.14%. On the expense side, we were under budget by 8.46%, and without the pension entry, that would have been 1.42%, because the pension entry was $246,000 of that $296 that we were off. We don't know that amount till the end of the year when they go through and do all of our GASB reports for us. Did you have a question?
But explain that pension again, how that's a minus number.
At the end of the year, every year, we have the actuaries go in and they do a...
So at the beginning of the year, we estimate what the pension will be?
At the beginning of the year, we'll estimate what we pay out in pension expense.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, what we don't know is at the end of the year, when the actuaries do their report on our overall pension plan, how much the unfunded liability will go up or down.
Okay.
Because our unfunded liability went down significantly this year, we had to do an entry into our financial statements to reflect a reduction in that liability, and we had to offset it with the expense account. So we have negative expenses in the pension account this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would love to keep seeing that.
Yes, it's actually a good thing. So the 2021 major capital improvements for water, Syracuse Drive was the biggest one at $1.2 million. In total, we spent about $2.8 million. The rough estimate there, the spike you see for the $3.8 million was paid for out of the 2019 SRF funds. So when you look at that, we actually had a downtick in our cash reserves. The net margin allowed for about $2.3 million. We spent about $2.8 million. However, we didn't transfer that much from depreciation, so you do see about a $1.2 million reduction in the cash reserves for 2021. Any questions on the water utility? Okay. On the wastewater utility, hang on just a second, I apologize. So let's go back to the water utility real quick, apologize. 2021 was the fourth year of our 5-year rate increase on the water utility. I just wanted to note that just so everyone remembered that. We implemented the very last phase of that in 2022. So that was about a 9% increase over a 5-year period. Well, per year over a 5-year period. All right, on the wastewater utility, we had operating revenue of about $6 million, operating expenses of $3.8 million, for an operating income of about $1.1 million. We had non-operating expenses of $404,000, and for the wastewater utility, that is the 2014 bonds and the 2018 bonds. We are currently only paying interest on the 2018 bonds until the principal's paid off on the 14, and then the principal will kick in on that, leaving us a net margin of $1.7 million. So when I do the analysis, we did have about $1.8 million left over for capital improvements on the wastewater utility. The current rates were built for approximately $900,000. These rates were put in place in 2016, but just so everybody is aware, if I look at our current 5-year program, our current 5-year average is $4.1 million. So we are going to have to keep an eye on that. In the budget, it shows that also. If you go out on the 5-year cash projection and you look a few years out, you'll see what I'm talking about, where the rates aren't keeping up with that capital program. So we will just need to watch those capital programs as they come up and monitor how we're going to fund those. On the budget analysis, our operating revenues were $5.8 million, or budgeted was $5.8 million, actual $5.9, for a difference of about 1.38%. Our operating expenses was about 10.59% off, and when you deduct that pension expense, again, that goes down to 2%.
What was the availability fee amount for wastewater in 2021?
Just one second.
Right here, I got it. Here.
I can't see it. Read it out.
422.
Let's see, I think Tim found it in 422, 729. Does that sound right?
It probably. I have to look at, for some reason, my paper's printed out of order.
But the 422,000, so without the availability fees, the revenue picture wouldn't have been as rosy, correct?
Without the availability fee difference, we were slightly under budget versus over budget. And on the expense side, without the pension entry, it went down to 2% under budget.
Thank you.
The wastewater capital improvements. Again, I don't go through these line by line, but we had line repair and replacement. We had some of the automated meter infrastructure that we replaced, for a total of about $700,000. The capital history What you're seeing there, the $6.8 million was funded by bond projects.
That was for the wastewater plant primarily, right?
Yes. So on the wastewater side, again, because we had more available than what was spent, we do have an uptick in the cash reserves. So overall, for the wastewater utility, we feel like we exceeded budget expectations. Net margins have returned to healthy levels following the rate increase. And again, it was back in 2016. Current rate structure was designed to provide approximately $938,000 in capital. It is doing that currently, but over the next 5 years, that average has increased significantly. So we just need to be aware of that. Any questions on the wastewater utility? All right. On the telecommunications utility, we had operating revenue of $955,000, operating expenses of $555,000, for an operating income of $400,000. We had non-operating revenue interest of $611 with a net margin of $400,000. We did repay $300,000 on the loan, so that left about $100,000 for capital.
What's the outstanding loan balance now?
The outstanding loan balance is $300,000, like $289.
Thank you.
From a budget standpoint, our total revenues were over budget by 10.73%, which is fantastic. We normally only budget about a 3% increase for telecom because I know we're at our capacity at a lot of places, but I think Seth had a lot of people increase their package plans over the past couple of years. Our total expenses were under budget by 12.18%, and without the pension entry, that would have been 6.04%. Seth spent about $19,000 in capital in 2021, and it looks like most of that was regular upgrades. There's a capital history here. And I will email this to everybody tonight after the meeting. That way everybody has a copy of it. So because they spent less on the capital, they were able to increase their reserves also. And for the telecommunications utility, through 2021, they do continue to generate positive net margins. They contribute about $350,000 a year to the other three utilities, which does help keep the rates lower in those utilities.
How much was that amount again?
About $350,000 per year. So based on the increase in cash, we were able to pay that loan down by $300,000. That balance is $300,289, and we have that projected to be paid off in 2023, but I'm fairly confident that we will be able to pay that off in 2022.
Yay. I'm sorry.
I know. Any questions on telecom? All right, that's it, and I will email everyone a copy of this. And then the full financials are uploaded to Govinda. If anybody wants a printed copy, let us know, and we'll get those made for you.
Right, thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item tonight is our Safety Committee Chairman, Sam Messenger. Looks like Sam has a message about a message board.
Oh,
About messengers?
Come on.
Messenger?
Hey, Sam.
Hey, thank you guys for allowing me to come up here and ask you for some money. So basically, since this is my first time representing the safety community, I thought I'd give you guys an overview of kind of what we represent, what we're kind of doing, some of the projects we completed last year, and who all's involved with it. Danielle is our main office representative. Chris Bohannon, he's here too. He's the electric department representative, the line department specifically. Travis Brown is our water treatment representative. Chad Charles is water distribution. I'm the metering representative. Corey Rowland just stepped up for the wastewater maintenance, and Brian Shelley is in wastewater treatment. So those are the 7 committee members that kind of are the ones that representing all of the departments. Department heads that also join in the meeting. We asked the field department heads to join in the meeting. So Jeff Greeno, Ryan Ottinger, Seth Bird, and actually Rick Hale attend most meetings as well. The reason that we selected a chairman was just because of those guys were a little too busy. We can still kind of continue and get stuff done, make sure everybody's being safe as well. So that was one of our main orders of business was to select a chairman and a secretary. Daniela acts as a secretary. I'm the chairman. We made sure that all of the office personnel that wanted to take part in it was CPR certified and AED certified. That hadn't been done for a while, so we made sure that was being done. We also have a process in place so that way when the field personnel come up on their CPR renewal dates, that we kind of get ahead of that a little bit, so that way there's no lapse in coverage there, so that way everybody out in the field is certified in CPR and AED. We have made sure that all the vehicles are equipped with the necessary safety equipment like strobe lights, backup cameras, some things that can prevent injuries and accidents in the field. We've done a lot of little things. This is really our first big purchase. One of the main things that we kind of did last year was make sure that we had safety netting. We started installing that in some of the lift stations, the deeper lift stations around town. So we started with our three deepest, and that would be Shaker Square, Auburn Meadows, and Enterprise. So they may not be our deepest, but they're our most frequented lift stations as well. So basically what this netting is once the door opens up, the net drops down, so that way in case somebody's down looking in, aren't quite tied on yet, you're not going to fall in and kind of do that. So it kind of protects us as well as if a contractor was out there working and they aren't adhering to our safety standards. That would offer another level of protection there. So that was one of the main things that we started last year that we hope to continue as we go here. We're kind of holding off on it a little bit now, just kind of seeing how the netting holds up over about a 6-month span, and then we might get back after it as long as it holds up as well as the salesman says. So that was our big project. This is our next big request, and that's the main reason I'm here, is the mini matrix message board. We feel, and we brought this up a lot, we thought we've contemplated an arrow board, just a blinking arrow. We've contemplated some LED signs that we could put out as well. It really came down to the price, and for the virtually a fraction of a little bit more of the cost. We can go ahead and get a message board out, and that can tell people. What really piqued our interest in this was when our electric crews were doing work behind Hewlin, on Hewlin Drive there. As you kind of approach that curve, it was pretty dangerous when we had our flaggers out there. We had to have kind of stagger them a little bit, and the communication is really necessary there. We're also looking at flagger training, getting trained and certified through OSHA for all our crews there. So we kind of talked about that a little bit too. But to help out with that, this message board would be huge, especially with the population increase that we're going to see. There's going to be a lot more people on the road. Like it or not, expansion is coming here in Lebanon, and growth is coming here in Lebanon. And with growth come more people, and more people on the roads and on our infrastructure. So I just want, and the safety committee want, our guys to be as safe as possible when we're working on the road. So with that being said, all three utilities that will be using this will contribute to this. That would be the electric, the water, and the wastewater departments. The amount for that will be $6,233.34. Like I had mentioned, the safety committee feels like this would be a huge asset to us. We may end up coming back if we use it as much as I think we're going to do. We'd ideally like to have one at the beginning of the work zone and at the end of the work zone. So we have it on each end that we're protected on. But for right now, with the cost the way it is, we want to make sure we're using it as much as we anticipate that we will before we go ahead and make that second purchase of another one. So just to kind of put that in your head right now, that we might be coming back here in the near future and asking for a little bit more as well. So I'd like to ask the board to approve the mini matrix board from the Hoosier Company quote that we have of $18,700. If there are any questions about anything I just mentioned, I know I kind of threw a lot at you, so if there's anything I can answer, I'd be more than happy to.
All right, thanks, Sam. Any questions for Sam on this sign?
Question for Sandra. This is a capital expense, correct?
Yes, this isn't really a question, just with Sam up here, I just want to say he's doing a great job as Safety Committee Chairman, and part of the logic of having a Safety Committee and Safety Committee Chairman is to have people who are safety-focused, meeting every month or so, and they're not in anybody's food chain as far as supervision goes, so if they have a question, a concern, or a problem, they got a committee they can bring it to, and they've already made some great improvements that I just think they're doing a great job, and want to say thank you.
I'd like to follow up that comment, too. I attended a monthly meeting of our Safety Committee on September the 14th. All departments were well represented at the meeting, and I was impressed with the careful attention given to several safety topics, including the need for a traffic control message board. I am confident that our Safety Director, Sam Messenger, has worked closely with Jeff Greeno, our Electric Operations Manager, and Ryan Ottinger, our Water and Wastewater Operations Manager, to find the best solutions to improve the traffic safety of our employees in the field. So I appreciate the invitation to the Safety Committee meeting, and it was a pleasant eye-opener.
Thank you. And that is an open invitation. If anybody wants to come, just get a hold of me, send me an email, and I'll send you an invitation to our monthly meeting.
All right, anything else for Sam?
I'd like our attorney's input on this. If I just listened to our financials correctly, we came in well over our capital, or well under our capital needs for last year. I don't think we need another meeting. I would propose we go ahead and buy the two now.
By the two.
Buy two of these boards instead of one. Sam's only proposing one. I would like to alter that and say two, so we have them at both the beginning and the end of that. We have plenty of capital in the electric budget left over from last year. I don't know the process to do that, Jeff. That's what I'm asking, and I don't know that I have the support of the other board members, but I want to make that proposal.
Yeah, so I think, as I recall looking through the quotes, there isn't anything special that a second piece of equipment could be added, so there would be, that could be done, no issue from my perspective.
That's it. I mean, I'm not sure I understood what you just said, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Well, so as I understand this process, that Sam went out and got quotes for these various pieces of equipment. And if we wanted to add, so it wasn't as though it was an RFP process or a bid, so he could simply double the order and that pricing would hold true.
Do you feel like that's the case with your vendor, Sam?
I think if anything, it would probably reduce the cost as opposed to increase the cost of the.
You mean reduce the cost of the individual?
I believe if you package two together, we may be able to get a reduction from the vendor.
Well, in the quote from Hoosier, it's got two on there.
I think those are.
They're two separate boards. We put it just a three-line.
Oh, okay.
Came with pre-programmed. I should have been more clear about that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Three-line that comes with just the pre-programmed messages. The one I'm proposing is the little bit more expensive one that allows us to put on there whatever we want it to say.
Okay.
Program whatever we want.
Well, do you want to go back and get another quote, or how you want to do it?
I can do whatever you'd like me to do. I have a contact. That was part of the problem with this whole deal is it's real easy to purchase it if you're purchasing it online. It didn't make the safety committee feel better about it. If we just bought it off of a website, we wanted a sales contact. So that way if something were to go wrong or we needed parts for it, we had a contact that would actually be able to meet us and bring us those parts.
So you have communication, that's
Yes, I do.
important, that's important, that's key.
Hey, Bill, what if we do something like a not to exceed this quote price times two? And if Sam comes
Yes.
up with a discount per unit for buying two, it's going to come in under that anyway. If he doesn't, it shouldn't exceed this price times two.
I don't have a problem with that, we'll just say, you know,
I'll make the motion with the additional numbers then.
okay?
Everybody okay with that? Anybody
Yeah.
have any other questions or discussion?
I do, please. See, Sam, I sort of understand what the message at the beginning of the job site would be, work ahead, something like that.
It could be utility work ahead. We have the NDOT and OSHA mandated signs that say, construction work ahead or utility work ahead or flagger ahead. We have all of those. This would just be an added protection.
Yeah, what would the sign at the end of the job say?
Well, they would just be facing separate directions, so we would put it on the other
okay.
side. For any
Both sides of the road.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is this gonna be something
Thank
like the police department has?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Just that kind of
Yeah,
equipment?
it's a little bit bigger, it's gonna be sitting higher up off the ground, but
Okay.
I actually contacted them as well to see where they got theirs, and theirs came in at like $22,000, so I said, no, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, no, I don't have a problem with doing it that way.
All right, go ahead, Neil.
All right, guys, any other questions for Sam? If not, we could entertain a motion for two of these signs, and sounds like Tim is prepared to make that.
I move to approve purchasing two mini matrix message boards for the amount not to exceed of $37,400, and for said cost to be divided between electric, water, and wastewater departments with General Manager Ed Baskell to sign all appropriate documents.
Second?
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Bill to approve the purchase of two of the mini matrix message boards.
I have a question for Jeff Jacob, please.
Okay.
Should we indicate the vendor in the motion?
Well, it depends on what Tim's intent is if he can get it from that particular vendor, yes, that would be, I was thinking those numbers matched up with what the vendor was, but yes, that would be more instructive to include the actual vendor.
Okay.
So we just want to amend it and put Hoosier Company Incorporated as a vendor.
That would be who's your company? Right.
And
Hoosier Company.
Who's your company, Inc.?
Inc.
Right.
As the vendor.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron.
We want to read that again?
Or I can amend it before the final vote
Okay.
during my reading, if that's okay.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of two mini matrix message boards from Hoosier, the Hoosier Company, for a not to exceed amount of $37,400, and for the cost to be divided between the electric, water, wastewater departments, with our general manager signing all necessary documents. Any additional questions or discussion?
Was it seconded? I didn't hear.
Yeah, we had, I think, Tim and Bill.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Sam. You got two boards in, looks like. Yeah. All right, next item tonight is the Osmos transmission pole restoration, and Jeff Greeno is here to address that. Hey, Jeff.
Hi. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As the board is aware, last year in 2021, we had Osmos Incorporated do our pole inspections of our transmission loop system. The transmission line are the 65 to 75 foot tall poles. They carry the 69 kV voltage that feeds our substation. When they did their inspection, out of 261 transmission poles, only 6 poles were discovered that were needing restoration, and 0 poles were needed replaced, so that's pretty good numbers.
Were you surprised by that outcome?
Yeah, I was surprised because I wasn't aware how old some of the transmission poles were in Lebanon system, so.
That was a pleasant surprise, right?
It was a very pleasant surprise, yes. This project, back in 2021, was a pre-2022 RFP, so I had to go out and get quotes to get these poles restored, and Alamon and Osmos were the only 2 companies that returned the RFQ to me. I do want to make note that this project is covered by the 2022 budget under capital additions. It'll be under system upgrades and improvements. So I'd like to request the board approve Osmos to do the 6 transmission pole restorations for the not-to-exceed amount of $10,712 with all documents to be signed by General Manager Ed Baskell. Are there any questions?
All right, questions for Jeff on the pole restoration? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve Osmo to do the 6 restorations for not to exceed amount of $10,712 for all documents to be signed by General Manager Ed Baskell.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Jim to approve the Osmos 6 pole restorations for not to exceed amount of $10,712 with all documents to be signed by General Manager Ed Baskell. Any additional conversation on the pole restoration? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, thank you, Jeff. It looks like you're here for the next item as well, which is the Cedar Ridge, Section 1 electric conduit.
Yes, Lebanon is getting a new housing addition that is starting up. Cedar Ridge, it's located just east of Grant Street off of Fordyce. This request I'm asking for is to have Barrett Incorporated, our conduit installation contractor, our primary one, to install the electric conduit, transformer pad boxes, and secondary pedestals. I want to make note on this project that this is a 2022 budgeted item under line item number 2 of the capital additions page, service to new facilities. So I'd like to request the board approve Barrett Incorporated to do the electrical conduit installation of Cedar Ridge Section 1 housing addition with a not to exceed amount of $23,664 and with all documents to be signed by General Manager Ed Baskell. Are there any questions?
Right, thank you, Jeff. Anything additional for Jeff on the electrical conduit for this new addition?
This is a Jeff or a Ryan question, I don't know. Have they given us any indication as to how quickly they're going to build that out, or they intend to build it out? Because it's like 115 homes, right? This is like 25 to 30.
Right. As of right now, they're just doing Section 1. They're already in the process of building the spec home,
Right.
the very first one. But this
First floor framing went in today, as I drove by several times. Okay. But we don't know the pace that follows this, right? Because you'll be coming back with Barriott again or whomever,
Yeah,
once we get into.
it's sectioned out in different sections, kind of like Sunbrook and
Okay.
Auburn Meadows was, so these will come.
But they haven't given us any indication of the pace they want to go?
No,
Okay.
just that Section 1 is going,
So this price is for just Section 1?
just Section 1, yes.
Okay.
Right, any other questions? Not entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve Berry Inc. to do electrical conduit installation of Cedar Ridge Section 1 housing addition with not to exceed amount of $23,664 with all documents to be signed by General Manager Ed Baskell.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, second by Tim, to approve Barriott Inc. to do the electrical conduit installation of Cedar Ridge Section 1 with a not-to-exceed amount of $23,664, with all documents being signed by General Manager Ed Baskell. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Next item tonight is the wastewater treatment plant tractor, action item, and Ryan Ottinger is here to address that. Hey, Ryan.
Hello, thank you for your time. This item is part of our capital additions projects. This was budgeted for $50,000. We did get 3 quotes, and the lowest quote came in from Booth Machinery and Sales. Booth Machinery also, all three were offered an opportunity to look at some of our older mowers and the tractor that we're replacing for a possible trade-in. Booth did show interest in that, and so if the board does want to accept the trade-in price, I believe, and Mr. Jacob could weigh in on this, I think we have to have an extra motion for that. Jeff, is that correct for the surplus?
Please.
And so, even without the trade-in, so the Booth was still the lower quote on that, so that is good. So this tractor is replacing a 1987 tractor, so it's fair to say we probably got our money's worth out of that one. And then a couple of the other pieces of equipment is an 02 zero-turn that's just, it seems like it's up on blocks being fixed more than it's actually turning blades. And then a walk-behind mower that it was here well before I was here. We don't even know we don't have paperwork on it or have an age on that. And then a 1996 Ransom front mower, and I was actually working summers at the Parks Department when they purchased those along with the utilities, if that tells you anything about the age of that. We use this we can bush hog our lift stations. We also have an area of the walkway trail that kind of goes through, splits the wastewater treatment plant and the electric garage. We use that. We use that mower to clear that and keep it in good condition, so when people are walking it looks good. And we also have forks so we can take skids off without having to bring the backhoe from the other garage down, or if the backhoe is being used, we can take skids off of semi-trailers and anything else that you would use a tractor for. So I can answer any questions that we might have, or then also if we want to discuss the trade-in, yes or no, we can do that also. So whatever, any questions the board might have.
So is this for two pieces of equipment?
No, this would just be for the tractor from Booth Machinery.
Okay.
Bill, I'm not going to make a motion to double the order.
If you want Sam to come back up, if you guys are handing out things in chairs, I have no problem with him coming back out. He is doing a great job.
I'm trying to understand what you got here. Okay.
Hey, Ryan, just real quick, I see the trade-in, or the quote offer for the trade-in is $5,000. Is that for all of these 4 items total that are listed there?
Yes, and that's for them to come and get them, load them up, take them away.
Okay.
2 of them don't currently operate.
Okay.
So
That was my next question. Do you see any foreseeable need to have these laying around in case we need one, or sounds to me like not?
No, they're actually they're in the way.
Okay.
They have to be moved a lot because of limited space, so it would help us, and then also bring down the price for the new mower.
So you're taking the price of $34,940, $128, and subtracting $5,000? That's what you get your $29,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And Jeff, can't we combine this in one motion, or we need 2 motions?
I would prefer at least one motion, and really what you're doing here is you have 4 separate pieces of equipment that aren't related, that I would like to suggest that the board declare those surplus, even though they have a value of $5,000 total. These are 3 or 4 separate pieces of equipment that I would recommend that the board declare surplus, and as part of this trade-in process, they could be, just because they're included in that process, I think we would still be permitted to walk through the trade-in process. So 2 separate motions declaring, one approving the quote for the purchase, and then the second would be for declaring each piece of equipment surplus.
At a total of $5,000. I mean, is that what you're talking about?
I don't know that the value, we would declare them surplus and allow them to be traded in as part of the purchase. So that would be the disposal process.
Okay, but the $5,000 is
Correct.
that's your trade-in, that's what you're getting?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes.
All right,
And we should also mention Booth the name of the company,
Yep.
Booth
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Machinery.
should be on there.
Okay, and so you said we want to do the actual approval of the quote for the new machinery first, and then declare the surplus second.
Surplus and allow that to be traded in to Booth
Okay.
Machinery.
All right, any other questions for Ryan on either the trade or the new item? And if not, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for the new tractor first.
I make a motion to move to approve trade-in offers and purchase from Booth Machinery for a Kubota tractor for the wastewater treatment plant in an amount not to exceed $29,941.28.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Aaron to approve the trade-in offers and purchase of the Kubota tractor from Booth Machinery for the wastewater treatment plant in an amount not to exceed $29,941.28. Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's approved, and then if you have if someone has the Booth quote, okay, it has the 4 items there for
Right.
surplus.
So I move to declare the Deutz tractor, Toro zero-turn mower, Ransom's front mount mower, and Bunton walk-behind mower as surplus from the water, or
see.
from the wastewater utility.
I think you also need to add the 2002 zero turn.
I put the Toro zero-turn.
Okay.
That's what I
I
said.
missed that? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So, we
I
got-
used the name of the Toro.
Okay, good deal.
All right, we have a second?
You got that?
Make sure we put in there the $5,000 trade.
Yeah, well, that was in the
We're just
first.
declaring purchase surplus,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, but we didn't state the $5,000 trade.
Well, I think that was included in the approval of the first motion for the new tractor.
It doesn't say that, but if you don't want to put that, I mean, it's fine.
Well, it just says I approve the trade-in offers. in the-
Right, that's
in the
what I
motion.
did.
Okay, so.
Is that good enough?
That'll work.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to declare the items that Tim mentioned as surplus. Any other questions on the surplus? Yeah, we have a second. Tim and Jim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Next item tonight is the approval of our claims, payroll, and transfers. Everyone had a chance to review those items, and are there any questions or discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the claims, payrolls, transfers dated April 20th, 2022, in the amount of $1,228,825.87 for claims and payroll, and $5,146.08 for transfers.
Second?
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Bill to approve the claims, payrolls, transfers dated April 20th, 2022, and the amounts mentioned. Any additional discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item is any other business. Anyone from the board have additional business tonight that they want to discuss?
I got one thing.
Okay, Ed?
I just got a brief update. They poured the foundation for the Admiral Longley storage tank earlier this week. As you might remember, we issued the approval for Bellman Engineering to start November 10th, 2021, and we're on schedule for the completion of that project in fall of 2022. Also, Reese Park Lift Station is our biggest wastewater project right now, and the notice to proceed for the initial phase of Reese Park Lift Station and gravity sewer improvements was issued this week, and they're expected to start mid-May. So things are moving there, and BF&S Engineering is looking to get us the notice to proceed for design of Phase 2 within the next month or so. Their goal is to begin construction in 2023. So just wanted to give the board an update. We just talked about the budget, so we probably should talk about where that money's going.
So Ed, Kokosing was, on their initial schedule, had these actions you just said are going to start May, starting in mid-April. Did we do something, what happened as to why we're about a month off of their original schedule, or at least what they proposed to us in the RFP process?
I don't know, and I'll find out. When I asked, well, actually, Ryan has an answer here.
Yeah, so their actual construction is going to start in mid-May, but we had our first pre-construction meeting last week, so they're actually going to be bringing in the trailer, lay-down yard. We also had to move a couple things due to making sure we were in the staying away from the drainage on the creek. So we met with Ken Hedge and Carol Cunningham and had to shift a couple things. So that put us behind just a little bit, but they're in the process of getting things brought in, and they're going to start doing the lay-down yard. And so it pushed us back a little bit, but they said even with that, they don't see the completion date being affected greatly at all because they built in some cushion for that.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. That's all I had. Thanks.
Anyone else on the board have any additional business? Public comment tonight? Ed, anything come to your desk from the public?
No, sir.
All right. Looks like next board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 4th at 5 p.m. Anyone else have anything for the good of the board tonight?
Nope.
All right, if not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Tim to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.